Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our webinar today. This will be Revit Made Easy for MEP Contractors. Leading this webinar today, we have a few of the experts from BIM Technology Management, Jeff Drews and Jared Sutcliffe. Today, they'll be demonstrating a few out-of-the-box Revit features that are frequently used by MEP contractors and designers. And then we'll flip over and show how Evolve can make those MEP workflows easier. At the end, we will have time for Q&A. So please submit your questions through the Q&A function in the toolbar. If we don't have time to get to your question at the end today, we'll make sure to follow up with you after the webinar through email. Now, today's webinar is being recorded and we'll forward the recording to all registrants. You can also find more webinar recordings on the Evolve YouTube channel. And so with that, let's dive into it. I will hand it over to Jared Sutcliffe to get us started.
Perfect. Thanks, Marina. So I want to welcome everybody to the best webinar that you'll see all day. I've got Jeff Drews in the room here with me, and we're just a couple of BIM nerds who love to share our passion and education within BIM. And the types of things that we do, it allows you to get the skills you need to get up and running independently, and then we can be there as support for you as you need it. So within our webinar here today, we're going to be covering the MEP systems, basic out-of-the-box Revit, but I'm going to focus more on electrical because I specialize in electric and a lead electrical coordinator and trainer here at BIM Technology Management. And then within that, we are going to switch over and then work within the Evolve tools as well, so that we can show the difference between the out-of-the-box Revit and how the Evolve tools can really, really help you and your team out within the projects that you have. So without further ado here, we're going to jump into our Revit project here. And basic out-of-the-box Revit will allow you to create, your standard conduit, bends, all of that type of stuff. And I am using the base template file for Evolve, so you can see all the different conduits that are set up. But I'm going to just jump into the out-of-the-box Autodesk one. And so within this, you can create your standard conduit. You got your bends in. I'm going to create some parallel conduits here. And got it set up to be, well, we're doing a 6-inch spacing here. So I will get in and be able to create some of the conduit here. And then you can trim, which is a tedious process. Go through, click each of them, trim them, accidentally trim to the wrong one, then you get all these errors. So you can do it that way. It's not great, but it allows you to get what you need done. And then as far as like a kick and an offset, you can do that. And I've got my trusty working section here. And so you can grab your conduit that you need, the offset. I'm going to just do a quick split and get the chunk in the middle, and then drop it down to my 2-foot elevation here. And then grab our conduit, draw that in at a 30-degree angle. And then I'll be able to trim these together here as well. And so, yeah, we've got our real basic offset here, and then getting into a kick as well. And this is just the old school way of doing it, the way that I've done it for years and years and years, and it's just not a whole lot of fun. And spent many, many times figuring out what's what, how to do that. And then now, like with this one particularly, we're way off of what we need. We actually want this to be 18 inches. So we will be at 3'4". And then now we know that we've got our kick that we have in here. That's the correct length. And hangers and support as well is not great because out-of-the-box Revit does not have an actual support system. So you would have to make your own Revit family or RFA for that. But under the systems tab, under the fabrication parts, we can actually go in and reload your configuration, get your unistrut hanger in there, and then utilize that as your object within Revit as well. So, and then now we've got to get our spacing. We're going to do an 8-foot spacing on this for our racking system here. So then if you have something that doesn't quite line up, you got to go through, redimension, make your adjustments, and just manages to completely just take up so much time, right? So then we've got those in there, and now we want to get our couplings in as well. So we're just going to split our conduit here and creating our couplings, but they're all off. So then to align them up, go through, really spend a lot of time wasting all of your efforts just trying to get things to line up and look right for fabrication, make sure that things work for your team for coordination. If you manage to misclick, you've got all the problems getting a conduit in the wrong way. You can see that process is just not a lot of fun. It takes a lot of time, rotation of your ends. Also have to get in, do and use your section here as well. Make your adjustment, make your rotation to what it is that you need. Hanger support is also, because it's an ITM content, does not actually line up to the bottom of your conduit itself. So we need to get our bottom of conduit, elevation, and adjust our rack system within that. And so then, yeah, now we've got that up to our bottom. So now we need to spool this thing up, get the information out of it for our foreman, and then for our team to allow them to build what they need to out of our system here. So we got all of our dimensions, we've got our spacing between conduits so they know how to build that rack. So then we've got to go through, we've got to create a new sheet, create that, and then place our view on the sheet itself. And so we can see that we've got all of our base information here. But we need to have our schedules and everything else that'll line up with that, so we can count the bends, the couplings. It takes so much time. Then we can have ourselves the information that we need on this particular sheet. So within the Evolve tools, however, you can create all of this significantly more efficiently. So we've got we're going to do our set screw here, and the out-of-the-box Revit or Evolve tools are so great and easy to work with, because as you can see, the elbows already have your couplings and your set screw couplings set in there. We can go through and do our parallel conduit here again. And we're going to keep that at our 6 inches because we want to be able to adjust those later. So got that in, and then under our Evolve electrical here. So what we can do with it, if we know that 6 inches is actually not how far apart we want these to be, we want to change them. So under our quick tools, under the electrical, we can do our alignment. And so we can apply a run spacing, and I want it to be equal spacing center to center of 4 inches. So then we can hit OK, and then we can grab our conduit that we have in our run here. Then we can create and finish. And what that did, as you can see here, is it automatically shifted everything to be exactly 4 inches in between instead of 6. And then instead of going back through and having to move each of your conduit individually here, like and shifting and shifting and shifting. So that quick tool is absolutely fantastic if you need to change anything within your spacing that you have. There's also the add remove unions. And so as we saw earlier, we can add in and split each of our conduit to get our unions in there. But with the add and remove unions, we can place unions along the entire path at a spacing of say 10 feet. And then we can select our first portion here. We're going to finish, and then we're going to click again in the direction that we want the unions to be placed in. As you can see, they automatically placed in our unions here at 10 feet. And just to show that, or 8 feet, just to show that we have that in there. You can see we've got a couple of additional unions here, so we don't want that. So we're going to actually redo our entire set of unions. And the great thing is we can also delete them out of our entire path and then reset that up. As you can see there, we got rid of them, and then we're going to add them back in, and we're actually going to do, so we've got our 10-foot spacing. And as you can see here, we've got the conduit spaced at our unions at 10 feet. Select the and then within, so within Evolve here, we also have our hanger placement, and we can also do that along the entire path or change of direction or a single hanger. And then within our options here, we can adjust any of the types of models that we can link to. So we can have the hangers actually attached to a link model or a reference plane, and then have it a specific distance below. So we're just going to keep it at nearest structure overhead since I don't have any links in. I'm going to select our hanger. Once again, we select the conduit, and we can go through and then click the direction, and it opens up a 3D view here, and that's where it's going through and calculating out where the runs need to be. And as you can see, we've got our hanger placement in at a spacing of 8 feet, which is pretty typical, so that you've got your spacers or your hangers not conflicting with any of your unions. And will allow us to dimension very easily. And you can see that it placed it at a really good dimension, so you don't have any odd hanger placements that we have here. The other thing that we can do within our conduit here and within Evolve, ourselves an issue here. We don't have our conduit far enough from the So we've got another one of our quick tools here is you can add in the tools here, and I cannot. So you can't see it, but my menu for Zoom here is covering up Revit. So I'm going to have to shift this just a little bit so I can see my menus. There we go. So within the electrical set here, we've got, then we can go through and adjust our unions, add in a separate offset. So we're going to split our, we can change our elbow, and we can change to add in a fitting. Can create an offset within our Evolve tools. So let's see here now. Within our Evolve tools that we've got, we can also reconnect elements. You can unconnect elements. So if we've got a handful of bends that we want to disconnect, we can select our bends that we want to disconnect here, and we can connect or reconnect those together. Can add and remove elements to a set of runs here. The union between these sets of conduit here. And we can reconnect along, staying connected to their runs. Nice things about Evolve here as well is we can add in additional conduit within Revit here without having to redraw and place additional in, so we can select the elements that we want.
Jared, hold on one second. I think Amber said she had something.
Okay.
Yeah. If you want me to take over some of the questions about some of the conduit, I can as well here.
Yeah, I'd say so.
All right, cool. Let me, I'll share my screen and kind of hop in here. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, we can, Amber. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah, definitely. So some of the questions that we're having are kind of being able to see the conduit itself and kind of understand a little bit of the differences between the elbows and kind of get a better understanding of how this is looking when utilizing the Evolve tools themselves. So a lot of times people are thinking that these nodes here that you see are going to be the couplings or kind of the separation points. But those nodes that you see within here are going to be a great indicator of how the bend is going to be orientated and how things are going to be looking. So that's one thing that is super helpful with Evolve is the fact that when you're looking at your bends, the nodes will really come in handy with it. So if I'm actually in your fine detail, you're going to see that seamless look. But being in a medium detail, based on how my settings are set up itself, then you're going to see those nodes. So kind of quick way to place in the offsets themselves within here. So there's multiple ways of placing in your Evolve bends. Definitely a lot quicker than the native Revit way. The first way is actually coming up here to your add and remove unions. With this is a great tool to help place your couplings a lot faster than what you're seeing in that traditional way that Jared was going through and having to splice the conduit and going from there and there. So with that being said, I'm going to do a single placement of my couplings. I'm going to window select my entire grouping of conduit here and press finish. And I'm going to be able to specify where I'd want those bends to be. Did just create a parameter sync rule. So if you see that error, it's because I have a created parameter sync rule. So once you have created your couplings here and placed them, then we're able to swap that out for whatever we want. So if I'm wanting an offset, I can come in here and type in offset. Additionally, I always say make sure the bends are loaded into your project itself. With this, we do have your family browser. So if you're ever looking in your properties and you're like, I have no idea why I can't see any of my bends, it is because the families themselves are not loaded into the project itself. So if you're having that issue, go to your family browser that you're going to find within the Evolve utilities. I like having all of mine docked in one little area, but you can type in Ben, and then you're able to see your bends right here. So once these are kind of here and loaded in, then you're going to be able to utilize them. So again, I'm going to select all these couplings and I'm going to swap out for the offset I need. So type in an offset. With Evolve, they're going to be broken up in two different things. You're going to see the two-piece bend, and then you're going to see the traditional bend itself. So with this, I'm going to choose the traditional bend itself. So I'm going to do my EMT set screw offset. With this, I'm going to turn that off saying I don't care about it. Those are two parameter sync rules that I created, then deleted. So if you ever want to know about parameter sync rules and the fun of pulling parameters into one parameter, let me know. But once we have established and specified these offsets themselves, they're not going to be typically offsets quite yet. So we're going to actually convert this. So now you're going to actually see that traditional offset that you'd see when that complex way of doing it in native Revit. So now if I go back into that medium detail here, now you're going to see those nodes here. So that's why I really always suggest these nodes, because when you're looking at the parameters of the bend, it's going to make life so much easier when you know the direction itself. So your blue is going to be the stationary end, or the end that is not going to move. And then the green end right here is going to be the end that is going to be moving and making adjustments when you're playing around with the parameters themselves. So with that being said, if I wanted to adjust the offset height, come in here and we can go up that 2 feet. If I want to go bring it back down, I can bring it back down. If I want to do a rolling offset, traditionally in native Revit, it would be deleting and redrawing. With Evolve, it's just hitting one check mark right here, and you're able to get that rolling offset here. So again, making adjustments, it's just playing around with it itself. The quick tools will really help, like Jared was saying, with the ease of everything, being able to have complete control of it, major design changes, all that fun stuff. The reconnect tool, I definitely love this for any like disconnects that happen within your run itself. And same with it, you could disconnect everything. This tool itself makes me laugh a little bit, but it is great for like major design changes themselves. One thing I always like to point out with Evolve when you're a new user is the tools that have little asterisks by them. That is indicating that this tool does something a little bit different. So a lot of our quick tools will have it. And then also the other way of placing your bends will have it as well, which is a Smart Bend Multi-Trim. So with that being said, these are indicating that they are shift commands. So typically if you hold down shift on your keyboard and you do something, it's going to do something a little bit different. So that being said, if I deleted these and I wanted to run this tool, I could. So this tool right here, I love for more of the typical way of what you're used to drawing when you know like set elevations of your conduit and you're wanting to quickly throw in your bends that way versus the standard Evolve way. I always say is really helpful if you're going from like point A to point B and you're wanting to place in your bends in multiple runs. So with this tool itself, the traditional way, if I select this grouping of conduit here and press finish, select this next grouping of conduit here and press finish, it's going to throw in your bends. So it's a great way to quickly place in your bends when you know the set elevations themselves. The shift command of this feature allows you to convert native Revit bends into the quote unquote Evolve smart bends. We typically call these smart bends because they know that they're 10-foot sticks, and you're able to also have a lot of control of the actual bends themselves. So just for y'all to be aware of, I know this is more of like the kind of initial aspect of Evolve, but just to get you a feel and understanding of kind of the amount of data that you can push within Evolve. All of our bends themselves, you can specify the bender itself that's associated with them. So right now I can establish that all of my bends are going to be utilizing a Greenlee 555 or whatever bender I need itself. And I know some of the questions are talking about like the data itself. When it comes to the data, there are a lot of great schedules and legends that we do ship with as well. So what's handy about Evolve is when you have Evolve for the first time, you are also getting access to like sample files, template files, and a whole bunch of things pre-created for you. If you're wanting to definitely utilize this, awesome. If you have already set standards, you can definitely more so come in here and use the things that you definitely like. So kind of pull from our existing templates that we offer. So we just put in some offsets. So you can also see the offset schedule. So it's all this great information that you can quickly utilize after you have created like spool drawings, and you can automatically place this onto your title block itself. So you're going to get all this information, Mark 1, Mark 2, Dimension A, Dimension B. You're going to see that within the legend as well. So Mark 1, Mark 2, Dimension A, Dimension B. Alrighty, so let's go in here. Lots of great questions here. So good question. So a few things with some of these questions. One, for prefab, when it comes to Evolve, you're definitely getting your project like prefab ready. So you can definitely utilize Evolve, like I'm showing you, with a lot of the schedules that are pre-set up, the data within the families, and the content itself. You're gonna have a lot of great information here to be able to prefab itself. Perfect. And then using Evolve and not have Revit. So Evolve is a plugin to Revit. So right now I am within Revit itself, and then you're going to see it within my ribbon here. You're going to see my tab Evolve Electrical. So you do need to have Revit to be able to utilize Evolve itself. So when it comes to great questions. So when it comes to the Evolve add-in itself, determining like what connects with what. So if I were to come in here, I still love using the parallel conduits here. So when it comes to like, how do you know, or how does Evolve know what everything is connected to itself? It's going to be based on like the conduit type and the size itself. So it's going to take in consideration all of that when you are utilizing like the Smart Bend multi-trim or just utilizing like the trim tool itself. So it's going to take into consideration like the size and the type itself to figure it out. It's going to be behind the scenes of like more of the development side of how those features themselves work. Yeah, great. Some of these great questions. Jared, if you want to like take on some of these questions, a lot of these also are kind of where to get training and how you all are utilizing the training efforts as well.
Yeah, so the demonstration with it being with conduit, it does work very similarly with the pipe. The tools and connections are very similar between the two. The Evolve Mechanical does have a few more tools and options within that plugin as well.
And then when it comes to like the training that people can receive for like basic Revit, would y'all want to, either Jared or Jeff, kind of go through kind of how that is structured with you all when it comes to BIMTM?
Yeah, absolutely. So our base Revit training, if you've never experienced or worked in Revit or have very limited understanding of it, we do what we call like the first 40. And so it gets you all the way through your basic, just learning the ribbon, learning the tabs, learning the basic tools, and actually builds upon all of those different elements that you'll learn throughout the process. So you learn placing elements, adjusting elements, editing families, why it's important to duplicate type, difference between type and instance parameters, and being able to work with and utilize the different views, what they mean, sheets. So we get you going from 0 to, I'd say, I don't know what you say, Jeff, about 75 in the first 24 hours. And then we continue building from the original in the initial training and just work on building that muscle memory.
Yeah, I think we teach a lot of the core concepts for Revit that help with implementing the Evolve tools a lot more efficiently than trying to learn it all from scratch. Let's go back through some of those questions. Maybe they're kind of specific to us.
Mhm.
Let's see. Sorry, there's a lot of good
Amber,
questions in here.
Amber, one of the questions up on top are there any training or support resources available for users who are new to the Evolve electrical plugin? I don't know if that's something you want to touch on, because I know it isn't quite rolled out yet, but you guys are doing a LMS system, correct?
Correct. Yeah. So any users who are current users or who are going to be onboarding, we will have access to a learning management system. It is in beta right now. So if anyone wants to become beta testers and run through any of those videos, definitely can. Also, typically with Evolve, when you initially onboard, we always suggest getting block time. So with block time, you do get access to kind of like a custom training. We'll go through a custom agenda, figure out what best fits your needs. And then from there, we can definitely support you in any way. That block time can be suggested or purchased at any point. So even if you've had Evolve for a few years and you want some additional block time, you can always get that. I typically always say reach out to your sales rep, or you can always reach out to me directly as well.
Jared, do you want to touch on how BIMTM can help with implementing the Evolve tools and Revit in general, even just beyond utilizing the tools itself, but how we can help kind of coach and mentor through projects?
Yeah, so one of the things that we can work with you on is directly work in a project with you, continue the training as we go through, be able to troubleshoot any of the issues that you may have as we work through the process that you have on your specific project.
And that's more than just the software itself. That kind of goes into processes and what is BIM coordination, because a lot of people just getting into Revit have never really dealt with BIM coordination before. So kind of best practices of talking with foremen and creating standards with your shop, and when you should move or try to stand your ground in a coordination meeting.
Yeah, because there's a lot of nuance when you get into the coordination side of things for those that don't have much experience with it. Yeah, that's a lot of give and take, a lot of communication between yourself and the other teams. Another thing as well is getting and knowing Navisworks and just being able to fly around and utilize the program. even if you're not in a coordination project per se, but you can easily fly around if you have the architectural, structural, you can put in any one of your, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, put that into the structural and architectural model within Navisworks and be able to fly around, be able to very easily identify any conflicts with structural, architectural, and be able to see that a lot easier than you can in Revit by moving section boxes or anything like that. So
There's a lot of questions on the bottom.
yeah, a lot more coming in. This is great. So do you implement BIM? So implementing BIM is something that we definitely help out with. We'll work with your team and your company and help you identify standards, help you create your own standards. If a custom content is needed, we can definitely help out with that as well. And touch base earlier with helping you develop those things and best practices alongside of a project as well. So we've got, how does BIMTM assist in creating accurate lighting layouts and power distributions in Revit with Evolve Electrical? So with the accurate lighting layouts, we haven't done anything from like a lighting design standpoint. But the power distribution systems within Revit, we've got plenty of experience helping out with that.
I think the short answer to that is we can help to create custom content as necessary for whatever your needs are. If Evolve doesn't have that within their package. They do supply a great Revit family package, but there's so many manufacturers out there with so many different options that it's impossible for them to provide absolutely everything that's necessary.
So what are the advantages of using Evolve Electrical with BIMTM compared to manual methods in Revit? So the advantages of using Evolve Electrical compared to just the standard out of the box is the ability to very quickly and easily add in hangers, coordinate hangers. Even within the Evolve tools itself, you can also do some clash detection within Revit itself. So you can easily identify where issues are happening even before getting into Navisworks as well.
I think one thing to add on to that too is you don't necessarily need this expensive or BIM person with a ton of knowledge on how to create custom content. You don't need that full-time BIM manager kind of creating all the custom families and the processes. It comes with 90% of what you need to hit the ground running from an electrical prefab standpoint.
Mhm. Definitely. We definitely try to make sure everything is easy for you when it comes to kind of the initial, like if you're just moving into Revit as well, because there is a ton of pre-set up elements for you. A lot of our tools will have like project versus user settings. So you don't have to worry about constantly having to set up settings. And this is going to be core through Evolve Electrical and Evolve Mechanical is we do have the option to export and import in features. We do also partner with amazing people like BIMTM when it comes to if you're wanting to initially start into getting over to the Revit side, figuring out kind of the best means and methods for it. But again, we're just trying to make sure that we give you all the resources that you all need when it comes to implementing Evolve and also just BIM in general.
So another question, how does BIMTM handle changes and revisions in the electrical design process with Evolve Electrical and Revit? So with the electrical design process, depending on the spec, it'll be like 2-inch and larger conduit may be shown. Depends on the designer. Sometimes they don't show any of that at all. So within that process and any of those changes that may come about within that design utilizing the Evolve tools would streamline that process specifically for large racks of feeder conduit getting from one distribution center to another, being able to easily add in and shift, make rolling offsets, adjusting the height of any offsets or any of those types of things within the quick tools and Evolve Electrical. It would be just a very quick process, and working with the design team to make sure that we're following design intent.
Amber, I guess one question I have for you on that is, Evolve doesn't have anything specific for revisions. You just utilize the out of the box revision manager. Is that correct?
Yeah, for revisions themselves. I mean,
Okay.
there's some things you can definitely do with like quick tools to help, or not quick tools, the utilities themselves to help with it. Kind of just alert you or indicate when there was like modifications themselves to it. But for kind of like traditional revisions, that would be the standard way. But
Sure.
like my thing is with like points, the statuses, a lot of things will have status associated with it. So you can see when things are like were modified, and then you could definitely utilize a colorizer to indicate or change colors of your elements, like to be red to indicate that there was like a modification or something after the fact of kind of like a sign off.
Perfect.
Question, do you support underground and or in-slab conduit routing? So with Amber, with what she's got on her screen here as well. So that is an example of underground conduit routing and the support systems within for a duct bank there as well. As far as like in-slab conduit routing, it would be a matter of modeling conduit in the elements of the slab itself to get it to where you need it to be. So it's not that much different than utilizing it for any sort of overhead system. It just wouldn't have any support or hanger information or modeling to go along with it.
Yeah, especially again, quick tools will help with that, the process itself. Lots of great questions here. Can you add?
There's a question about converting from other software like Inventor or Plant 3D. And I guess the short answer to that is we can convert it. It's not necessarily like a direct conversion, but we can potentially bring in DWGs into a Revit family and then bring it in that way. Amber, Evolve doesn't handle any of that conversion directly, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Unless, again, other workarounds within some like PowerShell scripts, things like that. But out of the box, no.
Okay.
And again, there are some good questions about like types of conduit itself. With Evolve, we have your factory with elbows, and then your factories without. So when it comes, or without fittings themselves. So with your factory elbows, again, those are going to be your conduit with fittings, and then your factory elbows, those are going to be without. So you do get kind of a mixture. It depends on what you want to utilize. I typically always say if you're going to be doing your prefab elbows, just be aware that they're going to be placing your stub 90s. Your stub 90s are what you're able to then convert and optimize. So if you're wanting to see like a 10-foot stick or your bend to be represented visually as that 10-foot stick, then I would definitely recommend utilizing your prefab elbows so you can get that stub 90. Your factory elbows, again, are going to be based on like if you're going to be more so not worrying about the optimization in the prefab side of that. But lots of great questions. And I know there was a good amount of questions here. So if either BIMTM or myself have not answered your questions, feel free to email us directly and we can make sure that we answer all of your questions a little further as well.
So Amber, one of the ones that I've seen a couple of times about Evolve calculating electrical loads and panel schedules within Revit.
So with kind of calculation wise, there are some things in the kind of roadmap itself. We do have your conduit fill. So that is one step, is if you're going to be utilizing like your conduit run schedule, if you're wanting to kind of get that immense data within your conduit itself, one thing that is helpful once you have established this data, if you're making modifications to your content, so adding content, removing anything, all this information will hold its value, but you do again get that wire fill. Any of the other calculations, there's other workarounds themselves, but currently it's just going to be your wire fill.
And within that as well, one about voltage drop or like fault analysis. So within that, you can get the length of the entire run of conduit. And then that would just be a way to be able to identify if you need to adjust for any voltage drop.
Correct. Perfect. I think that's everything with the questions. Again, there's a good amount. We're kind of jumping all over with the questions. So like I said, if you did not get your questions answered, you can email me directly, and I can also pass off any additional questions to BIMTM as well. Do y'all have your emails? I can also say mine as well here, just so everyone has access to emails if there is any additional questions.
Amber, from our side, the easy email is just info@bimtm.com, and that's BIMTM.com.
Perfect. Perfect. And then for contacting me, you can contact me at amber, AMBER, .zinky, ZINKY, at evolvemep.com.
Great. Thank you so much, Amber, Jeff, and Jared, for walking us through that today. And to everyone else who's joined us, I hope that you found the information valuable. Please make sure to follow Evolve and BIMTM on social media to keep up with all of our upcoming webinars. You can find more demos and past webinars on the Evolve YouTube channel. And as a reminder, this webinar has been recorded, and we'll send out the recording in an email to all registrants. And yes, please reach out to us at the emails listed here in the chat. You might want to quickly grab those, copy and paste them, and we'd be more than happy to continue to answer your questions and support you guys. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.